Gun deaths among U.S. children and teens jumped 50% in between 2019 and 2021, a new analysis found. A Pew Research Center analysis published last week found that gun deaths among children increased from 1,732 in 2019 to 2,590 in 2021. The analysis using data from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention said that the gun death rate also rose from 2.4 deaths per 1,000 children under 18 years old in 2019 to 3.5 per 1,000 in 2021. The rise marked the highest rate and number of teenagers and children under the age of 18 killed by guns since 1999, when the number was 1,776 deaths. That was also the earliest year the CDC had data on gun related deaths. 2021 also marked by far the highest number of gun deaths among the general population on record at 830,000. Pew Research Center noted this number increased by 23% since 2019 when it was 39,707,000. Homicide deaths comprised the largest portion of gun-related deaths among those under 18, making up 60% in 2021. In that group, 32% of gun deaths were caused by suicides, and 5% were categorized as accidents, the analysis found. About 1 in 5 parents are very concerned about their children being shot. The analysis also found among adults, suicides were the largest cause of gun-related deaths at 55% in 2021. A Washington Post report found that 2022 marked the highest number of school shootings in the country at 46 shootings. There have already been 23 school shootings so far this year, the report found. This analysis comes as Democrat lawmakers and officials have renewed their calls for gun reform in the wake of the Covenant school shooting, in which 6 people were killed, including 3 9-year-olds. President Biden has reiterated his call to ban assault weapons and to implement universal background checks. Republicans and Congress remain opposed to those measures. So this would be the part of the video where I would give my opinion and talk about how I feel about this stuff. But every time gun control and just conversations about firearms in America comes up, it just sort of feels like we're in a loop-de-loop as far as the cycle is. There's a shooting, probably 5 to 10, 15 or plus number of people get killed. We learned some stuff about the assailant. The Democrats call for gun control. The Republicans say, oh, we need to do something about mental health, and they do nothing about mental health. And nothing gets passed until a week or 2 weeks or a month goes by, and then there's another shooting, and then people talk about it again, and then nothing happens again. So that's why I said I'm at a point where I really do question if I should even bother covering it at all. As far as like I don't feel as if anything is being gained by discussing it or talking, because like I just feel like I'm stuck in this loop. But I will say the data itself is very interesting because we're now reaching a number, and the article points out, of gun related deaths that is referring to teenagers and children under the age of 18, the largest since they started recording data, which means that you could actually make the argument that in the 20 plus years since 99, nothing has actually improved. We're still seeing just as many children and teenagers killed as we would have back then. God, it's crazy how this goes up and up. I'm kind of curious about that 1 in 5 parents extremely are very concerned about their children being shot. I would think it would be much larger, just because it just seems as if there's such a rampant amount of firearm incidents in America. I mean, we're not even technically 4 full months into this year, and we've already had 23 school shootings. So we're about 4 weeks in a month. We're in like the 17th week of the year, and we've had 1.2%, 1.2 shootings every school shootings every week, and that's not even counting all the shootings that happen all over the place from in other facilities. So I would think if I know that data, I'd be more worried about my kid being shot. And I said before that if I that we had a Tennessee Republican who said that he homeschools his child, and I thought it makes a lot of sense that someone would see all of these killings and then opt to do that, but it's one of those things where there are certain people who just don't have that luxury, like people who work Monday through Friday 40 hours a week. They can't just drop their job and now sit at the house with their kid every day. Where someone who's wealthier could actually feasibly do that. But I just don't see things improving, and they're not. But not only do I not see things improving, I don't see. I'll put it this way: you're gonna get to a point. You have to get to a point where the shootings are happening so much, because they're already happening every day, but they're happening so much, so constantly, so often, and they're also involving people that are, and like I'm gonna actually catch myself. I was gonna say maybe people will, lawmakers will finally do something about this when one of them gets struck. But I'm remembering the 2017 baseball shooting where the number 2 Republican in the House, Steve Scalise, was shot, and he still goes around going, "Well, we don't need gun control," which makes him look even more pathetic because this is someone who almost died from the exact thing that he's now defending the right of people to of insane, deranged people to have. So I really have no solution here. I'm stumped because you're gonna as bad as the Democrats are on a lot of issues, you can get them to agree to very basic gun reforms, but the Republicans are just impossible. There might be 2, 3 of them that'll vote for something relating to this. The rest, they couldn't be bothered. And you sit here and you say that you want to have background checks, you want a federal law for background checks. You're not talking about banning guns. You're not talking about confiscating firearms from the whole population. No one is talking about any of that stuff, and they'll just smear you and say that you want to get rid of people's guns and restrict their rights. And it's like, I just, it's such a frustrating conversation because I believe that while the number of that while gun deaths would not stop, in the event that these laws were implemented, they would most certainly be lower than what they are now. And it's really unfortunate that we have these people. We have voters in not even just red states, but like we have voters who actively support politicians that are completely fine with children, teenagers, and older people just being killed every single day by mentally deranged bastards who are have an easier time getting a gun than they do getting a driver's license. This is definitely one of the more frustrating issues of modern times, because like I said, you go back to the 70s, 60s, 50s, you didn't have daily mass shootings. But now we do, and people are just not serious about responding to this stuff. And I don't know if they ever are going to be. I don't know if we're ever going to get to a point where 70, 80, 90% of voters are saying, look, if you want to protect yourself by having a little pistol, whatever, that's fine. But someone who is mentally ill and can't pass a background check doesn't need a gun. I don't know if we're ever going to get to that point. I think we could have, we already have them daily, but we could have shootings in major buildings across all 50 states every single day, and people still would just, they just wouldn't be open to proposing any new laws. They would just keep saying mental illness, thoughts and prayers. And it's scary because children are dying at higher rates, and the voters and the politicians don't care. Like, imagine how much easier things would be if we had a, it doesn't have to be 60 Democrats, but like 60, 65 senators who go, okay, we're open to some gun control legislation in response to the crisis of firearms in America. And the thing they propose is, again, we're not banning guns, a federal background check. And if this doesn't work, we can repeal it or we can alter it or modify it, but we're gonna put this in place and see for a year how if things are gonna change or be any different. Even with having just a small, actually no, having a tiny majority like that who's open to at least trying to do something, it'd be a hell of a lot better than the gridlock we have now, where you have half of the U.S. Senate, or about half, because there's like 2 or 3 Republicans that actually will do something about this, Collins, Murkowski, etc., who, no matter how many shootings there are, they're going to keep taking that NRA money. They're going to tell you, if you mention wanting to actually change laws to stop this, that you're politicizing it. They're going to tell you that you can't, criminals don't follow laws, so why bother passing any laws? Why pass a law if someone's going to break it, even though these are the same exact people who say they're for law and order? I mean, it's just a joke at this point. And it's a joke that unfortunately is being played on the general public because the same people, the same states like, Kentucky, or, Nashville, Tennessee, these are places where they vote for the very same party that's completely fine with seeing members of their community blown to pieces and taken out to slaughter like animals. So it's just a really sad state of affairs. And I don't think it's ever going to improve, at least in the near future. I think we're going to enter a decade or maybe 20, 30 years of just having to wear a bulletproof vest or not be in places with that many people because there's always someone with a firearm that's crazy and ready to go off. And again, it's all preventable, but you just don't have a population and a political party, referring to the Republicans, who are serious about actually doing something to stop. Because again, as long as their pockets get filled with that NRA money, they're fine with the bloodbaths. And like I said, for them, it's payday. You get some money and you get to sit there and, wag your finger every time one of these shootings happens and deflect and talk about something else. And then rinse and repeat every time one of them happens. But, we're not going to see anything actually get fixed. Not for a long time, at the very least. And that is truly pathetic.